Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on Excel in Creative Writing. My name is Ravali and I'm a part of the team here at Turito. And today I'm joined here by our speaker, Dr. Poonam Singh, one of the stat tutors at Turito, and Ms. Priyanka from the Customer Connect team. The webinar is a part of program by Turito for the students who are looking for a bright future and parents who dream of giving their children the best education. Before we start up, let me give a quick overview of Turito. Turito is an innovative e-learning platform in a mission to make quality education accessible to all. Now, Turito is present in USA, Canada, Middle East, India, Singapore, and Australia regions, and programs offered by Turito are NAPLAN OC and one-on-one tutoring services for math, science, and English in Australia region. And how do we differentiate from other edtech platforms which are currently available? Turtle exclusively gives access to live and interactive one-on-one classes which are personalized to the custom needs of the students. Regular assessments to track the children progress and doubt clarification sessions whenever needed for making their basics and concepts stronger. Also parent application to make you part of your child's learning journey. Moreover, we have top 2% certified educators who we partnered with to envision our vision. Before getting into the specific, let me offer a quick introduction about our speaker at today's event. Dr. Poonam Singh, PhD in Literature and Languages, exam preparation expert at Turito. And she is a highly passionate educator with over 8 years of enriching experience in the education industry. Dr. Poonam Singh has facilitated students for both competitive exams and extemporized spoken English. And before we starting, if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type the questions down in Q&A. We shall be answering in the latter part of the session. We'll now have Ms. Poonam to take us through the webinar. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ravali, and I hope everyone has a wonderful morning today. Thank you so much, all the panelists and my viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for being here so patiently and letting us showcase whatever we want to so that we can drive our aim with your help. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a privilege always to give and to talk with the parents in terms of child's improvisation and their improvement in terms of their learning. So let's begin with what's the topic today. When it comes to creative writing in English, everybody gets a kind of temperament of understanding how are we going to go ahead with, right? So when I talk about creative writing, it is something not everybody's cup of tea, and everybody thinks of coming up how well we'll be able to answer those questions or we'll be able to come up with those story writing. So this is the main part where everybody gets stuck, and English can never be completed unless and until you know how to write and how to come up with creativity. It's absolutely like a canvas painting different colors, showing your emotions, showing your aspirations, showing your intentions. When it comes to what are we going to do in creative writing, first of all, what is a creative writing? So according to me, creative writing is comes, or when it comes forefront of the purpose through the using imagination, when you have creativity, when you innovate some ideas in order to tell a story, through some written visuals or an emotional aspect or impact that you put in your writing. When it comes to how different types of story writing is there, so I think we have, when we were children, we used to write stories. There are memoirs, there are essays, then comes poetry, then comes up with speeches, then comes up with short paragraphs, descriptive paragraphs, discursive essays, opinion essays, persuasive text, argumentative text. Everything that lies along, we are talking about creativity. That can never come up unless and until we are bound to have such an imaginative idea which provokes someone's senses. What are we going to deal here in these lessons, in these topic is how to improvise our storytelling with the personalized learning. How are we going to include our grammar concepts when we talk about these creative writing? I hope I'm audible, everyone. Yeah. So when it comes to talk about what are the key ingredients that we require, to be very honest, when I come up with the creative writing, I always prefer my students to come up with a brainstorming. What I want. If I don't have any clarity and I just take my paper and start writing, I cannot come up with what I want to draw, right? So the techniques we always prefer in terms of making our writing creative is the character development after brainstorming. So brainstorming is a major and an important part which requires at least 5 to 10 minutes of understanding of what are we going to portray. The way we are going, for example, when we go somewhere, we plan. So brainstorming is absolutely the same structure of planning. So further on, we can come up with character development, plot development, vivid settings, then comes underlying themes, then comes point of view, dialogue. We can also include anecdotes. When it comes to what figurative languages we can give here, because when it comes to creative writing, to be very precise, we cannot use literal language the way we are using. It's just the medium of information. We have to give little more. And what is that little more? Figurative languages. We have to inculcate those different ideas of structures into our writing. Figurative language, or in other terms, we can say poetic devices. At times we have heard about them. So figurative languages most importantly comes up with metaphors and similes, then comes figures of speech, then comes the imaginative language. Now, what is imaginative language? Imaginative language includes all my descriptions. It includes adjectives along with adverbs, and it includes conjunctions. Means what I'm trying to go ahead with, it's I'm going to cook up a story with all these ingredients that we call as parts of speech, including our figurative language. And then comes our emotional appeal. How intact or how integrated I am with that concept. Keeping that in mind, then I'll come what I want my readers to understand. I have to also remember about the audience. Moving forward to understand about what is I require there to describe. The way when we, for example, make our place better for our living, we have every possible eminent features in our houses. Extremely the same way, exactly the same way we draw here when it comes to creative writing. So how can we become a master to creative writing? Again, we have to come up with the idea. First of all, we have to build that idea into some kind of you can say plan. That is brainstorming. Decide storylines and character traits. When I talk about storylines, it's not just simple. At times we used to write in terms of monotonous ways, like once upon a time there was a story. Now we have changed all these aspects. We have different ways of giving it to beginning. At times we start with the middle, giving a absolute you can say suspense at the beginning. Then we come up with the end, and then goes with the entire flashback. So we are nonetheless using the same technique that we were using earlier, like for example a decade ago before, or something like that. And when it comes to character traits, every child is going to be a writer when they'll be here with us, because they'll be able to understand how to develop those characters. What are the importance of keeping those characters? As if, are we supposed to keep those characters in first person, second person, or third person? So when they'll be coming up with us, this is what are we going to give them in terms of creativity. We'll let them understand how which one personification, which one person is better to come up with the stories. Am I going to be the speaker in the story, or am I going to be the main character of the story? Because every now and then children do write the third person, as in my own self at times, to the story person, the speaker, but they don't know how to develop with the other characters. Then how are we going to create scenarios under varied settings? Settings can be so different that gives the impact, if I could say, inquisitive impact to the entire structure. Then what do? We don't want the child to just go ahead with entire text at the same time. It has to be done in fragments. If you don't do that, your head become monotonous hearing and reading the same concept. We want a child to have a break once he draw at least one paragraph or two, so that he can come up with little more. If you keep yourself sit for, let's say, 30 minutes for the same topic, you will not be able to create it. You cannot find that instinct of being creativity. Exactly the same way we have seen painters, they draw inspiration from every now and then. They want to see every color as their own color. This is what we are going to draw. We will be always focusing on different important five eyes: imagination, idealism, innovative, instinct, and inspiration. These five eyes will always let the child understand what he or she requires. Then after that, once the child is coming with, let's for example, two paragraph or three paragraphs for that creative writing, we ask the child to have a break, at least for half an hour or so that he or she can go and then brainstorm again that what he or she had written. Because here we are trying to make them understand how are they going to come with the examination. If they will keep the same pattern, they will never come with the creativity in writing, in examinations, which is very important. So once fresh idea, enter right again. That is what we follow. Prepare the first draft and finalize it. The most important part is to review and edit. We help each and every child to even understand in each sentence what is the error. Once the child is coming out with the writing of that, let's for example a story, we explain the children what is the logic of not putting adverb in that place, or what is the logic of writing an adverb or an adjective in the same place. So keeping these concepts in mind and keeping these in indigenous help, we make our children master to what they are and what they want to learn. And why they should learn with Turito? Absolutely. That is something everybody has in their mind. There are multiple platforms. They give you recorded sessions. There are teachers who give lecture method, but these classes are absolute hyper personalized classes. As per the child's pace, as per the child's need, as per the child's understanding, we customize classes. For example, if my child has an assessment on Shakespeare today, I'll be able to come up with all the concepts of understanding and formulating that Shakespeare topic into his writing. For example, if my child has an examination of reading comprehensions, we make sure that it should not be only aligned with the curriculum that we have developed. It has to go with the child's understanding. It has to go with what child requires. So we don't want child to go with handful of learning. We want child to go with mindful of learning, something that child can vouch and say that yes, I learned this. This is something that I know. It's nothing that a concept of a definition a child needs to learn. We don't focus on definitions because definitions is something children have to mug, and we don't come up with those rote memory procedures and lecture methods. We want children to come up with something that they understand and incorporate. So always we believe in choose mindful instead of handful. When it comes to experts here, absolutely they are so engrossed with entire training and their own subject matter that they give every possible insight of what the topic requires to the child. And these are absolutely one-on-one sessions, personalized sessions. So if the child, for example, my child is very inquisitive, we are there to answer all their queries. If my child is very, very introvert, we are going to give the child a platform where he or she can come up with all his or her hidden ideas. We make them not introvert, we don't let them introvert, we'll be taking them out of their shed, and that is how they'll be becoming extrovert. Because unless and until they speak, they share, they imagine, they understand, they cannot write those things on the paper. As times we have seen that my child is very logical and ask every now and then questions. Why is that so? Why it isn't? But we always have a pre-notion of the language, English, that it is something that we have to mug or learn continuously. So we here, teachers, tutors, always try to give logic behind that. We make sure that the child will learn with the logic also. Like, why I'm using verb and not subject, why I'm using object and not the subject. So every now and then we make these lessons so important. Priyanka ma'am, can you just mute yourself? Thank you so much. So we always try to make this session interactive, and we don't focus on one-way communication. To be very precise, we always work on two-way communication, that is interaction. And we also make comprehensive materials here. We prepare students for NAPLAN and OC. We always prefer to keep all the aspects of learning and language and literature into together in incorporated way, keeping reading, writing, grammar, and speaking all together. If we are taking reading comprehension, doesn't mean we will not let understand a child what is grammatical concepts used in that passage. We keep on always weaving out those concepts and let the child understand now and then this is how the things have been taken forward. And when it comes to creative writing, I believe every child is a creator, and too much of creative. So everyone can be creative once the paintbrush has to be given to that child, and the real imagination and inspiration. So keeping these fives in mind, I'm going to finish up my topic with creative writing. I believe children to come up with these 5 I's, that is idealism, that comes with imagination, intuitions, inspiration, and instincts that they have. So keeping these in mind, every child can be a creator and a creative in terms of literature and languages from my end. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any queries, you can pen down.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the detailed explanation regarding the course, ma'am. We'll be taking up for questions from parents now. Please send your questions in the question and answer section. Ma'am will be answering them. And we got some questions, ma'am.
Yeah.
How should a child approach a creative writing topic?
How can you come again with the question, please?
How should a child approach a creative writing topic?
Very right. How should a child approach a creative writing topic? This is something at times examination will give you. And now, for example, when it comes to creative writing topic, it can be anything. If a child is writing an opinion essay, that's also for me is a creative work, because child has to put an opinion of himself or herself, keeping his points forth. So, and for example, if my child is writing story, that is again a creative writing topic. That depends on what child requires at the moment to do.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. And the next question is, what kind of books are better to improve creative writing?
That's really good. I always prefer my child to go with the comic book, first of all, because that is something that they always visualize. Unless a child can visualize something or his own story, he cannot come up with writing that. So I always want my children to just visualize. And second other thing is, apart from these books, I always want my children to be in the same moment. So once the children come up with, like, if you want some books that I should prefer, that should be maybe from Charles Dickens, because you can get amazing stories from him. Robert, then you can come up with some comic stories, comic books. Then there is a Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It's an amazing story to begin with. So I think there are a few books that the children can go ahead with.
Thank you, ma'am. And the next one is, will reading a lot help in writing better?
That's a very good question, reading a lot. But to be very honest, I am a little bit differentiating in this point. Reading plus imaginating, like reading plus conveying is important. If a child is reading a book, for example, a book, I'm saying, and he knows what is the demand of his writing that moment, that the child can write. It's just talk about, it's only about the the language, the concepts that you're using, for example, the figurative languages. And when it comes to vocabulary, child should go ahead with, let's, for example, with a simple sentence first, and then synonyms and antonyms for those words. So I believe in connotation. I believe in that particular structurized pattern. First of all, I don't impose everything at the very first moment. Like, children should go absolutely with 10 books, read 10 books, and then go ahead with writing. One book, few ideas. Second book, some more ideas, incorporate them, give your more ideas. And even listening to some stories, watching some movies also will help children to come up with creativity.
Okay. And the next one is, any daily tips to follow to improve writing or reading skills?
Any day, yes. I always prefer my children to go ahead for at least 15 minutes of either listening or reading something. Listening in the sense, if there is any kind of a news, anything that they can listen to, that is informative, means up to date, that can help them to come up with the new words, that come up with the new updates for today's world, or maybe today their area, something that help them to go ahead with listening and getting something in their brain. Because we always feel a kind of parallel to the world, having the same similar concepts in our mind and having same words. So unless and until we hear something, unless and until we read something, we cannot come up with the different ideas. So that is what suggestion I generally give to my students.
Okay, ma'am. And the next one is, what information should include in introduction, only topic or else anything?
No, no. When it comes to introduction, for example, it depends on the topics that you're taking. For example, if a child is writing an essay, thesis statement is required, along with a little bit of description. What are you going to go ahead in the entire essay with? If it is a story, I always prefer not to go with the monotonous beginning. I always want my children to come up with some kind of a little twist. So that is also a different thing. When it comes to persuasive text, it has different introduction. So I cannot use same pattern or same procedure in every creative writing subways. So it depends on topic to topic.
Okay, ma'am. And the next one, if they do not understand, how will you make them understand, ma'am?
That's a good question, because what we do, we always let the child imagine with their own fantasy world. Everyone has, like, we also have. So we always try to go ahead with activities what child is good at. This is what we always, with the first demo, we visualize, we understand the need of the child, and keeping that in mind, then we customize our classes. So if my child is not at all coming up with imaginative things, then I will ask him, for example, if I have a daughter, she must be good at listening to music, or maybe dancing. If my son is footballer, cricketer, so I will let them imagine that scenario. If you will be a cricketer, how will you come up with those ideas, the stories? So everyone can be brought to that point. It's just we need to stretch that nerve out. That's it.
Yeah, ma'am. Okay. And a question from parent side. As my kid in 6 years old, they have knowledge on grammar. So writing will be as per individual talent.
Yes, you can say, but why not? We can indulge the child coming up with very small writing, like short paragraphs and short essays, or not even essays. Let's, for example, short stories. Essays are going to be a conceptual way. So short paragraph, a description to what they have done in a day, it's absolutely going to make them creative from the very beginning. I know the child is in sixth grade, sorry, sixth year, but still that child can write, if a child can write a sentence that can be developed into a small paragraphs that will be descriptive, which help the child to be more creative in further years.
Okay, ma'am. And this question to Priyanka, ma'am. How many classes in a week?
How many classes in a week? Absolutely, Priyanka ma'am. That absolutely depends on the child's need. For example, my child, oh, because we don't want children to be too much hampered with the course that they have and we are going to give an external, additional one, right? So we always prefer to child and the parent to come up with certain ways wherein the child cannot feel boredom, cannot feel pressurized. So minimum of 2 classes we prefer, and if you think the child is fine with taking 3 lessons in a week, that is absolutely good. If you want to pace the language and literature in the child's learning, then definitely three a maximum or two minimum we prefer.
Okay, ma'am. And we got one more question. How about if we didn't see such improvement after few classes? As well, parents are not good with English. What support can given?
That's really good question because that is the general problem at times we face. So I think we are open to every kind of amendments there. You can get another teacher having the demo from the same means from the other teacher, unless and until you feel yourself intended contented on the same the way. If you feel that now the teacher is good, we can give you teachers till then. And still if you find that okay, now we are not able to come up with, that is very rarest of the rare case, it hasn't happened yet. So if for example that is a condition 0.1%, then in that I think HR will help you to know that financial team, I think academic counselors, that they reimburse, I guess, Ravali ma'am, if I'm not sure, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. So if you feel that the course is not beneficial, which is, again, I'm emphasizing 0.1% happens in a case. So in that condition, the reimbursement will be done.
And one more question, ma'am. How do you expect your child to perform more better in tutoring?
In tutoring, okay, I always prefer child to come up with at least one improvement in a day. So I don't see my children to be for example Einstein in the next day or Shakespeare in the next day. I always prefer to come up with minimal, means gradual progress. And I always ask my children, and I always believe if a child comes up with 1 point of improvement, he will do wonders or she will do wonders, because that is what an adaptability of a child conveys. So if a child ready to learn and show you a small improvement, that can be brought to a huge change, and that is how we work.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. And the next question is cost for third grade one-on-one classes.
Yeah, okay. So what is that?
Cost for third grade one-on-one classes.
Okay, I think that is academic counselor will call you, ma'am, Priyanka ma'am, after just this webinar, and you'll get all your queries answered.
And how does my child handle stress?
Okay, that is something everywhere we are facing, like every child now and then, because of the studies are facing stress. I We give not only learning, we don't only pressurize child to just learn the concepts. We give such a lesson that broadens their mind and mood. Because, for example, there is a good introduction always in the class happens, so the teacher understands how or what kind of a mood the child has. So keeping that in mind, for example, I do remember there was a child who was under stress. She was in grade 10 last year from Australia, and she had certain assessment, and she was feeling so pressurized that she wasn't able to come up with the class, and she wasn't answering from the very beginning. So I just to modulate that. I showed her a moral video that was conceptualized with reflective writing. So we always see what child requires and how a reflection to be given. Our late after watching that video, which was related to the concept, and after when the child wrote a reflection, she understood that taking the stress on certain level is not required. It's just we who are taking those things on a certain basis that let us deviate from what do we want, or what do we want in our daily life in learning. So that is what a personalized classes give. We feel we understand each and every child, and keeping that in mind, we develop the lessons.
Okay, ma'am. And the next question is, after writing an essay, what can a child do to self-improve?
Yes, reading, reviewing, because once you write it, of course, read that in front of two people, get feedback. Critique is very important. Unless and until we get critique from someone, we won't be able to write and improve, right? So, keeping that in mind, always try to read, review, show that to more people, and then edit.
Yeah. Okay, ma'am. And the Q&A session is, I think so, ended. And I think we are good for, yeah, ma'am. Wait a while. I think someone is typing the question. Yeah, ma'am. I think we are good for now, ma'am.
All right, Ravali. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, everyone, for joining and having giving me the wonderful questions. I hope I was there to answer all of your queries. And one thing I could tell you again is we always believe in mindful instead of handful. You should at least come up with understanding of what are we providing in one-on-one personalized lesson and see the change. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Being so wonderful audience.